Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. Before we begin, head down, hit subscribe, like the videos, check out our around the world resource guides that are in our show notes. A lot of great things, especially for South America, which is we're making our way through. This week, we were in Chile and Argentina.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And so we always like to talk about maintaining our focus with these countries, especially when you're doing multiple countries. Last video was about Brazil. So there's a lot. One country, a little bit easier. You can pick two things to do. This time we had to kind of spread that across two countries in South America. So we focused on the landscape, specifically the Patagonia region in the southern end of South America, kind of shared between Chile and Argentina. And then we also focused on Easter Island. For young learners, Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, very interesting, very compelling, and there's a lot of great resources on it. So it's a good thing to blend the two together. Patagonia, kind of this great natural resource, and then Easter Island or Rapa Nui being associated with Chile. So let's get into it. We'll start with the books that we began with.
Yep,
so
lots of great books.
This was the recommendation.
This is the Torchlight recommendation for Chile.
Yeah. So Lucia's Travel Bus. It was a wonderful book about a young girl and a grandfather traveling around in Chile. A lot of our books are centered around Chile, but they kind of can blend the two together, especially if you're doing this kind of Patagonia focus with the landscape. Great book about traveling across the mountains in this obviously cute little travel bus, little yellow bus. Little bit of a heartfelt story at the end. Lost her grandfather, had to kind of do some things to promise and keep a promise to her grandfather. So a little melancholy at the end, but I thought it was a really beautifully illustrated book and also a very compelling book as well, and it connected with our learners. She really liked it.
Yeah, she really did. But just if this is going to be something sensitive for your reader, we did want to let you know that there was the passing of a grandparent in this book.
So kind of a sensitive subject, but if that is for you may want to pass up on that. All right, we talked about this in the last video, in our Brazil video.
We did.
Tales our abuelitas told.
We have read this. This is the Build Your Library book that is South America Overview Week, Brazil Week, and then Argentina Week. So we gave a little review on it. In Brazil, we were 2/3 of the way through the book, and it had not connected with our reader. We have now finished the whole book, and we can say with definite certainty that we don't recommend this book. It did not connect with either our 5.5-year-old daughter or us.
Doesn't mean it won't connect with you, but for us it didn't work.
Right. So what we would say about this book, we bought this book, and we will probably give this away to somebody. So this is a book, if you think that your reader might like it, we would recommend that you get it from the library and check and see if this is something that you're really going to enjoy. We thought that a lot of the folk tales were very strange. They just didn't. They had strange story structure. They
just didn't connect with her.
They didn't connect with us or our daughter. But maybe your family is going to be different. But for us, this was going to be a pass. When we go back through this with our younger daughter in a few years, we are not going to do this book again. So we wanted to make sure and update our review on this because we don't really recommend this.
We gave it a second try.
we finished the whole thing, and it just didn't work for us.
Yeah.
What we would say is, if this isn't right for you, go back into our previous videos. We have lots of amazing books for South America that, you won't be at a loss if you don't use this book. We've got plenty of great stuff.
You definitely fill the time. You can pull those stories out, put another story in. It's not a big deal.
Right. These are Hispanic folk tales, but they're not, each week when you read them, they're not specific. They weren't Argentinian folk tales for this week. So we think you can do better than this one. But if your family loves folk tales, maybe this is for you. Check it out from the library and see.
So the next one is Mango Abuelita. Abuela. I'm stuck on the last part. Abuela and Me. Now I really, really like this book.
Yeah, it's very cute.
It was not centric, in Chile or in Argentina, but it was a story of a grandmother who's, come to live with them in their city. I'm kind of think of it as sort of like a New York City type of thing. I don't think it was very specific about that. And it was about the grandmother and the granddaughter living in the same room together because they had to share a room, they had to share a bed, and the grandmother spoke Spanish and the granddaughter did not. And there was a little bit of a tension there, and then they overcame that by learning the language, helping each other learn the language. And I thought it was just a really heartwarming, thoughtful story about a grandmother and a granddaughter bridging that gap, that language gap. It was also a really good book if you're trying to do some dual language.
Yes,
incorporating a little bit of Spanish. It was a really great story, and good to motivate the young learner if you are doing that. So I really like this one.
The extra bonus on this one, if you get this one from the library, or depending which version you buy, it has a CD in it where they narrate it in English and Spanish, and so that's pretty great too, to give you a little bit of, your reader can follow along with the book and the words in Spanish, which is fun.
Next one is, I think, a recommendation from our guide, is the Pablo Neruda book. So Pablo Neruda, famous poet from Chile, won the Nobel Prize in Literature, I think in the early 70s. Very famous poet. Wonderful little book, kind of just very autobiographical, telling the story. He was a very quiet, reserved young man, and then how he came and became this kind of this, I think that they say he was the voice of the people, and it was a really cool book. What I really loved about it is they blended a lot of Spanish words with a lot of English words here, kind of like as if it was his writing was written on the world. And he was very much a naturalist poet, so he wrote about the nature and the world around him, and then connected that to the people. So really great book. Did that with the language. I love the drawings. It was very playful,
really great illustrations.
Very simple, short book. Maybe something you can read twice, and a nice little write up about him at the end. So if your reader's kind of creative, wanting to kind of get into poetry, enjoying that type of stuff, this is maybe a good book for you. We recommend it as well in our resource guide.
Yep, Pablo Neruda, Poet of the People. There's different Pablo Neruda books, and this is the one that we enjoyed.
We read another one, very melancholy. I really recommend this one a lot more than the other one. Yeah. So next one, A Pen Pal for Max. Now, I really like this story. It was about a young boy, very sweet young boy living, I think, just outside of Santiago. Ends up putting a letter in. His family works on a grape. They harvest grapes and they send that up into the States, and he put a letter to get a pen pal, and someone wrote back to him, and then this whole story devolves into him writing back and forth with this young girl, and it was really heartfelt, really nice. Also talks about, I think, the earthquake that occurred. I don't believe it was the one in the 60s. I think it was the one in the 90s, and then the connection between his pen pal and him, helping him and his class recover from that. So really cool, and it can also get you into learning more about the geography, volcanoes, earthquakes that are really prominent in Chile. So really good book if you want to kind of extend into some additional learning. Absolutely. Mia's Story. Now,
this is an Andean, right?
So this is again another Chilean book, kind of up in the foothills, poor, downtrodden individuals kind of living on the edge of society. Very sad and kind of melancholy story, but I thought it was a very touching and very beautiful story about how people can, find hope through desperate situations. So it's a really nice book that kind of elucidates that to you, and you can maybe kind of challenge your learner on those type of topics. You want to talk about poverty, talk about people who are in need. A great book about that. Also, the artwork is breathtaking, really well done. I really recommend this book. I liked it a lot. I actually read it again just to myself because I just really enjoyed the story. So Mia's Story, really good, very, very heartfelt. And again, another way to just kind of get some more learning and understanding people in different regions. So.
Yeah, different circumstances.
All right. The Day the Stones Walked. Again, another Chilean focused book. This one's obviously focusing on Easter Island, Rapa Nui. This is more of a story about the native peoples there, kind of set back in time before any type of colonial impact. Really great story about a young boy who's kind of disillusioned with his culture, and then through some catastrophic event, finally understands what his people are talking about, and there's that reconnection. And I really like this story. It was really great. Again, going back to our landscape and our Easter Island focus, this is a great touchstone to get into what we'll talk about in a few minutes about some of the documentaries that are available. But an absolutely fantastic book. Again, you can see the artwork is really good. I really enjoyed it, and it was a great story.
This was the only one that we could find that was a fictional story for kids about Easter Island. We found other nonfiction sources, but this was a good fictional account for it.
Absolutely, and set back in the time, so you get a really nice cultural impact there as well. A nonfiction book, so we've talked a lot about Chile. Let's talk a little bit about Argentina. Great book about Argentina, just kind of like a general
these early reader books
these
are
informationals.
So good.
Really great. Like they every 2 pages was like another aspect. Here's the agricultural, here's the industrial, here's the big cities.
Here's about the gauchos.
Yeah, just a great book to kind of like introduce you to the country. And then you can read through something like this and see if your learner gets interested in a certain topic, and boom, touch point to go do some more learning, find other books, find other resources, watch videos. Really enjoyed it. My learner really likes these type of books, so I think she gets a nice breath without it being too complex where she like loses focus and maybe doesn't understand what I'm talking about. Really great books to do. I really encourage these.
This is a Blast Off Readers series, and you can see on the back here, there's a
lot
whole
of
list of countries
I thought
that they've got.
I thought we did one with Brazil like this as well.
Well, the one
Similar,
for Brazil was one called Living in Brazil, and there's a series of the living in ... and those countries, which we always get.
But those style of books have been really,
right, but
really
these
good for us.
early reader books that are nonfiction are terrific because while we could get plenty of great nonfiction books about Argentina, they'd be way over our daughter's head. Even if you're...
And we had another one in the basket this week,
Right.
and it was a little bit too much, and I thought that this one was like just the right amount of material for her, understanding and age group.
Right, I think if you've got a, kinder through second or even third grade, these are really nice because they give great cultural information in a very easy to understand format. So even if your reader is above an emergent reader status or not reading yet at all, like our daughter, these are awesome for just quick country overviews and by Scholastic. So
yeah, fantastic. Next is the Where is Easter Island? So this is in the Where is Who is series.
yeah, Who HQ, I think.
Who HQ. We've recommended a couple of them already. We really encourage you guys to get on these. You can get them very affordably used on the used book sites, but this one obviously was centered on...
Or even new. I think they might be like $4.99. These are often on Book Outlet. So if you want to get yourself up to $35 free shipping on Book Outlet, these are a great way to do that.
Well,
and
we
they're
have a great
all really
we have a
good.
great podcast. Maybe we'll link it in. Buy all the books, and you can listen to Ariel and all her tips and tricks on getting
Lots
these
of
books.
tips.
And these are really good. Again, more of a chapter book. Maybe your learner may not have the stamina on some of these, but I have found that my learner really likes these. You can read a chapter a day through a course of a week or two. Obviously, we did 2 weeks on this, so if you load it up at the beginning, do a chapter a day, you easily get through it in the 2 weeks. Really recommend it.
Right. These are great because they've got the little line drawings in them. It is a nonfiction book. It is above a kindergarten level. Absolutely. She's not getting everything out of it. But one of the things I really like about reading these Who HQ books is I get enough information. We do as the parent teachers that we're able to then go, oh, I didn't realize that this was involved with whatever we're studying. And we can look up more videos or other books about it and things. So this is really good for us, and our learner gets something out of it too.
Well, and also cycling back, if you have another kid in the classroom with you that's a little bit older, again,
Perfect book.
perfect for them. But also you may cycle back into it when she starts to read. It's another resource going forward. So we really recommend these. These are really nice.
We've been collecting these books ourselves.
Yeah.
This one's from the library, but we've got a whole stack of them, and they're all just great. They're really great.
So we went from books to food, which we always like to focus on.
We're a food family. We're eating our way through South America, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
It's delicious.
It's really good.
So I'm going to butcher it, but it's fugaza, which
Fugaza.
is kind of an Argentinian focaccia. If you've had a focaccia, kind of a flat, yeasty dough bread that's kind of slack when you're working with it, but it kind of, you cook it in olive oil, and
So
it's really
known
tasty.
for being an Italian bread, and there's a huge Italian influence in Argentina. So this is their version of it. So it's a focaccia that we made with the kids.
So it was a focaccia with a little bit of oregano, very thinly sliced onions, and mozzarella put on top of it, baked in. You obviously bake it first with the onions on top, then you finish it with the mozzarella. It went really fast. It was great for sandwich bread, great for dipping if you're really into that, and also the kids love that because it's cheesy bread.
And so this is a kind of bread, if making bread intimidates you, focaccias, these slack doughs, they're
easy.
They're not what you think of as normal bread. They don't need a lot of kneading and all of that. No. It's really mixing. It's very wet. You kind of do some basic folding, but it's...
the recipe we used not the food processor, but your mixer for it, and it was just a very easy dough to do. Yeah. If you were looking for a good focaccia recipe, we have the America's Test Kitchen book. If you have that in your house, there's a focaccia recipe somewhere in the middle. Phenomenal, very easy to make.
But we'll link the recipe that we used for the fugaza down below. So if you're looking for that, it was really easy. The kids loved it. It's one of those doughs that it's so
forgiving,
very forgiving, right? So having a 2-year-old's hands all over it is fine. It's going to be totally good.
It's not some delicate white bread. So
no.
Then we did empanadas,
which were also so good, you guys.
Good.
So good.
So basically a ground meat with a little bit of onions and peppers. You can pull the onions and peppers out if that's not your thing, or if you know your children are going to just pull the ripcord if they see those in there, as I did. So we went with basically just ground meat with a nice spice mix, cooked in a little bit of stock, rendered down, and then you stuff that into, we use pastry dough.
Right. This recipe actually used puff pastry. A lot of times you would use like a pie dough for hand pie, but this one used puff, which just made things a lot easier for us. We served it with salsa.
And I bought a pre-made puff pastry from Safeway.
Right.
And then I just rolled it out and I cut it up and I just put the empanada meat
our daughter
inside,
decided how she wanted to fold them, and so that's something.
And they bake in about 25 minutes, and they were really good.
They were really good, and that's something that I commented on my Instagram too. That we have to remember about Kitchen Classroom. It's not just about teaching hands-on skills, appreciation for another culture, getting to do things like reading and measuring. It's also about artistic expression, and it's about having a vision of what you want to see. You look at this recipe and you think, our kids think about how they want to make it, how they want it to look. So when they came out, they didn't look exactly like the picture. They weren't maybe Pinterest worthy, but they were delicious, and they were the vision of what our child wants. So I think that it's important to remember that there's a self-expression portion in this Kitchen Classroom. It's it's an art too, and but also it's okay for them to.
There's also an accomplishment feeling there that they were able to make something, especially something that was tasty, that mom and dad both enjoyed. There's a lot of fulfillment there.
Right. Our daughter is so excited. When I was actually at work the day that the fugaza was made, and I got pictures of it, and my mouth was watering at work. But I got home and our daughter ran up, Mom, you have to try it. It's so good. I made it. I made it with my sister, and we made it together. And she was so proud of it. And she was so proud of the way that it looked. And I think that's just we're
about 2 years away from never having to cook again.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
We're close. Anyway,
but it was all very delicious. We loved it. There were more recipes that are in our resources guide that we just didn't have time to get to, but they looked really good too.
Yes.
There was sopapillas.
We couldn't eat sopapillas, and then there was another one that we missed.
There was another one that looked amazing as well.
Oh, it was like a cookie with the caramel.
It was a dulce de leche cookie sandwich and with coconut on the outside. It looked really good. We did also make a steak with a chimichurri sauce for Argentina. That's
right, we did.
Which was really good as well. We cooked a steak on the grill, and chimichurri is parsley, garlic, herbs and oil, kind of a fresh sauce. Our kids weren't as into the herbs. We loved it. But that was like a little bit odd for them, but it was really great. That Kitchen Classroom activity was good because it was about them mixing up everything to make the sauce, and then you grilled the steaks, and it was all pretty darn tasty. So all in all, we had a
good food time.
It's all been good food. That's my thing. I mean, every 2 weeks I'm like,
just an excuse to make food.
You're like, where are we going next? I'm like, Ladder, let me open the cookbook. Let's see. I'm so excited about what we get to eat. And it's fun because some of these recipes our daughter has said, can we make that again? She said the other day, can we make bannock bread again from Canada? I'm like, how many weeks ago was that? She remembers because it was that tasty.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that it's just all really, really fun. And that chimichurri recipe was out of the cooking class Global Feast, which is the cookbook for Build Your Library. We don't use the cultural,
Cooking Around the World one?
No. It's
the one for Torchlight. We
don't use the Torchlight one. I don't remember the name that it is because we don't have that book. So we get our recipes for Torchlight Weeks from blogs and other sources. So.
Absolutely. So let's get into a little bit of the movies. We touched on three major things this week. First one was Underdogs, which was an Argentinian animated children's movie.
It's all about soccer.
Soccer and
Messi is what's his first name?
Lionel Messi.
Lionel Messi. So we read a couple of soccer books about him. We didn't find any books specifically that we would recommend. What we would say is look for a book at your library that deals with him, because
plenty of YouTube videos talking about him and showing all his great goals and stuff. So there's a ton of resources.
Very famous Argentinian soccer player. So this was an Argentinian animated soccer movie
centered around like soccer, but also foosball. It was kind of like both.
You'll see it in the trailer. It's foosball players that come to life and help out on a soccer team. So this was on Netflix, so it was easy to get to. We watched it. It was dubbed in English with a bunch of American actors.
Yeah, one of them was Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks was. It was weird.
Very strange.
It was kind of strange.
Is that Mel Brooks? That is Mel Brooks.
It was a movie that the kids really enjoyed. We didn't really. We wouldn't watch it again.
Yeah. But the kids liked it.
There wasn't anything specific about Argentina about this movie, but it was made by. It was made in Argentina by Argentinian director and all that stuff and writer. So. Mm-hmm. And it talked about soccer, which is big in that culture. So we thought it was okay to do, but it wasn't amazing. Mm-hmm. But it was animated. The kids loved it. It was about soccer.
Next thing was on Disney Plus. There's a great documentary on the Nat Geo section. So at the top, go over to National Geographic. It's specifically on Easter Island. Mm-hmm. Very nice, about an hour long. Really good on the Moai, the culture, how the island has changed over time, how they have discovered more about it. Our learner is really deep into the archaeology stuff right now, so she really liked that. It really connected with her. And also there's a few other additional videos that we found on YouTube about how they moved the Moai. Some thought they rolled them, but they kind of think they walked them. There's a great video that we have in our resource guide of these guys, just about 30 or 40 guys just kind of heave-hoing it. And it's this whole Moai just like walking down the road. Like,
it was pretty impressive.
La-di-da-di-da. It's very cool. It's very impressive to watch. But again, it was kind of that second half of what we kind of focused on during this 2-week period.
Right, and also from National Geographic on Disney, there's Wild Chile there as well.
And we watched,
which was really good.
We didn't watch all 3, but we watched the first one of Wild Chile. Absolutely fantastic.
It's all about
beautiful
the animals and landscape.
And what's really nice is it's 3 episodes. They're all about an hour long. But the episode in the hour is broken up into 8 chunks. So it's really 5-minute sections where they're kind of they have an overarching theme and they're kind of walking through different animals. Our learner loved it. So the Wild Chile just came out. It's pretty recent.
Yeah, really good.
And then there's obviously the Easter Island. So I would really recommend both of those if you have a chance. Very, very wholesome. In the Wild Chile one, there is a seal eating a penguin scene. So I could definitely tell you there were some Daddy, that's not supposed to happen. Oh, that happens.
We had to have a discussion with our 5-year-old about how nature documentaries don't always have happy endings.
Yeah,
and that there's a food chain, and sometimes the animal you've been following is going to be the one that gets eaten.
But the way they directed it was very tense. Penguin's running for his life, and I'm like, oh, they're going to let him go. They're going to let him get out of here. And, oh, no, they didn't.
Well, yes, there's penguin parts being ripped apart. So we did have to explain to our daughter that sometimes nature documentaries go pear-shaped, but it was really good. One of the things we would say, if you're watching this right now when this video comes out, these are the ones that we know of that are on Nat Geo right now, but they're constantly adding new material. So if you're coming to these videos after, months later after we've recorded this or years later, definitely whatever country you're in, check National Geographic on Disney Plus because they are constantly adding new content that we can't, we're not going to keep up with all the time. And there's just great stuff on there.
There's another documentary that's on Amazon Prime right now, 180 Degrees South, which is a really nice documentary, a little bit more heady, a little bit more older. So if you have an older learner kind of coming with you in this journey, definitely a good one to watch there. It's all focused on Patagonia and the beauty of that. So 180 Degrees South is another great documentary that's available on Amazon Prime.
That's right.
Okay, so then we'll talk a little bit about the videos that we had. So in our resource guide that we have in the description below, feel free to check that out. Our South America guide, we have a ton of videos. So I just wanted to key in on a couple small videos that we really enjoyed. So in the north of Chile is the Atacama Desert, very dry. I think they say it's one of the driest points on Earth. Right. Super high altitude. There's a lot of great observatories, and there's some absolutely stunning videos of people doing time-lapse videos of as the sun sets and the stars come out and as they move across the sky. Great, beautiful 4K, 8K videos of the Milky Way moving across the sky. My learner loved it. She was blown away. She thought, Daddy, why are all the stars moving? I said, no, sweetie, they ain't moving. Well, they're sort of moving, but they're not really moving. We're moving around the planet. The planet's spinning. And she just had to wrap her head around that. We kind of had to sit back and say, now imagine that we're spinning and everything else is staying the same. So it was a really nice touchdown, beautiful landscape, great video. So definitely check that out. Second half of that is our gaucho videos that we have in there.
Oh, she was super excited. And
these were the ones I did not think she was going to be into. So it's a bunch of gaucho is a cowboy, kind of spans the southern Chile, Argentina, Pampas region of in Argentina. So I think we have gaucho videos for Chile, and we also have gaucho videos for Argentina. again, very rough and tumble cowboys, roping, horses and sheep and little kids riding on the back of sheep. Very rough, gruff experience and really like dirty and gritty, but she loved them, and I don't know why. I did not think she was gonna, because I like them. I thought they were pretty cool.
There's something about all type of westerns that we connect with. The other videos our daughter really enjoyed were the ones on the Argentinian tango.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of tangoing happening in our house these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we really focused, I think, on Argentina the first week, and we focused on Chile the second week. So we just finished with Chile, but you're right. The tango scene in Buenos Aires was a hit for our daughter. So definitely a lot of videos there as well. Animal research, which I think is part of the Build Your Library segment.
Which we've taken over. We are not doing Torchlight Trek articles. It's just way too much for our 5-year-old. So for every 2 weeks, we're doing one animal to research and this week, using the Build Your Library
This week was alpacas, not llamas. We learned the difference between alpacas and llamas.
She did.
She really liked the alpacas. And what was really nice about the alpacas is that we got into the talk about wool, spinning, weaving, a little bit of the Mapuche people doing weaving videos. Really great touchstone into the kind of the yarn and the fabric and the wool aspect of alpacas. And they're obviously very cute when they're shaved down and they got these little
She was
poofed up
telling
hairs.
me all about the livestock guarding and all the other. Tonight at dinner, it was all alpaca facts.
It was alpaca. And
she was trying to convince us we need to get an alpaca. We should get one for our house.
Grandma needs needs a llama to protect the little dog from the coyote. No, because she was blending the two.
Oh, okay.
She knew there was llamas and alpacas and they looked the same, and then I was like, well, how can you tell a llama from an alpaca? She goes, because they have the banana ears and their ears are shaped like bananas. And it was just very cute. It's very fun. It's a great little thing that you can do with your learner. We did alpacas again.
She thinks Grandma should get one to
protect
guard her little dog
in the backyard
from coyotes.
It was so funny. It was actually so funny.
We're like gonna tell Grandma this tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have to tell her tomorrow. But anyway, pick that animal. It can be almost anything. Yep. We almost picked this squirrel rabbit combo thing. God, I don't know the name of it, but she was fascinated by this.
I love the process of picking the animal that you're going to research because there's a lot of videos, and the whole time it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like America's Got Talent. I see our daughter sitting there going, not that one. That's not good enough. No. That one's not cool enough for my animal research this week.
She really liked the alpacas.
So until she clues in on it. The first week it was like the horned frog that spit blood out of its eye.
Oh,
and then
that was awesome.
She got into
there was a roadrunner. There's like a pink-legged tarantula.
Yeah. It's funny what strikes them as interesting, but you're watching all these different nature documentaries, and that's
it's really nice too.
It's really fun.
I'm getting a lot out of it myself. Like I'm learning about a lot of animals, learning about the regions. I'm like, wow, man, I really like Argentina. It's a really cool place.
Sometimes at night he's like, did you know about this animal in this area? I'm learning too. That's
Absolutely.
one of the wonderful joys about homeschooling is that we're really doing this as a family. It's like, if somebody came up to us and said, well, what's your daughter studying this week? It's like, well, we are studying Argentina and Chile because we're all doing it. This is what we're eating, is what we're talking about when we have family TV time. These are the shows that we're watching. And I love it. I think it's great.
It's a family trek around the world.
Our youngest daughter, our 2-year-old, every time we pull out a map, she's
America.
like, yeah, South America. South America. Everything is South America. It doesn't matter what continent you're pointing to. It's all South America. So it's been pretty fun. She's been enjoying being along for the ride, and she loves all the dancing and the food.
She's getting a lot out of it, yeah.
She is. So one last thing I did want to mention, that we did start reading Greetings from Somewhere, which the very first book, The Mystery of the Gold Coin, that was the Torchlight book recommendation. So they had Lucia's Travel Bus, but they also had this as the chapter book. I'm not going to go into it in detail because there are 10 books in that series. Yeah. And so I'll kind of talk about them all when we're finished with them. But so far, this one is not country specific. So just want you to know about that book. While they do have you start it here, there's nothing in it that pertains to any particular country. It's where 2 kids are going to be setting off with their parents on a worldwide trip, where they're...
So far you like it, and
their mother's a travel writer.
And they're also homeschoolers?
Yeah, and so they're going to homeschool the kids, which our daughter thought was really cool. She's like, they're going to be homeschooled. They're going to homeschool. I'm homeschooled. It's so hard to find kids in books that are homeschooled as well.
Yeah, right.
So, and that it be a positive thing and not, well, they had to bring him home and homeschool him.
Yeah, right.
I'm looking at you, Sophie Mouse. The book about the snake, the first one. So anyways, yeah, we really liked it. She was totally into it. It was perfect for this age group. Lots of great illustrations. So far I really enjoyed it, but I just wanted to make that note that if you are not sure when to read that, maybe, we're going to be coming up to Peru and they have a Greetings from Somewhere. If you haven't read that yet, go ahead, throw the first book in there. It was a quick read, and it doesn't have anything to do with one specific country as it starts off the whole series. All the rest of the books are going to be country specific. So I want to give that note.
So again, subscribe, follow our podcast, like the videos, comment below, follow us on social media, give me a high five in the street because we can all get out now. So that was Chile. That was Argentina. We had a great time. We're looking forward to moving on. We're going to go to Colombia, Peru, and Venezuela, and then we're going to toss on French Guyana, and Suriname because those aren't really covered in any of the curriculum. So we're going to tack them on and maybe use some of our resources in our resource guide down below. Definitely get a copy of that. So we're going to pack in a lot, and then we're going to finish with Ecuador, and Galapagos,
and probably Uruguay, Paraguay. We'll add those in too because those also don't have a spot. And
we
don't want to leave any countries out.
Yeah, they around the world does not actually touch all the countries, so that might be surprising to you because as you're moving through, you're like hitting every single one of them. There are a few that are left out, and so we want to toss them in, at least get some exposure. Do a little bit of geography time. So
it's a difficult thing because a lot of these countries, the smaller ones, French Guyana, Ghana, there's not a ton of books there. So we put in all the books and things we could find for our resource guide. What we'll do is we'll pull in the books that we can. A lot of it's going to be video exposure that this is another place and this is another culture. And so that's what this whole thing is about, right? It's all about exposure and getting our kids to understand that there are people that live all over the world in different ways from us. They eat different foods and some things they do like us and some things they do differently, and just getting an appreciation for the wonderfully varied world we live in. So we don't want to leave anything out, even if we're just going to touch on it with some videos.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching. Subscribe below, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.